Hi everybody, Bob Gager from Adobe here with another Fur-tography tutorial on Photoshop Elements. Thanks everybody for uploading your photos to our Fur-tography contest. I've been having a great time looking through all the pictures. What I'd like to do is grab one of these photos and do a little fine-tuning, a little creative editing if you will, and have some fun with it. So I'm going to grab maybe this shot here. This is a nice shot. I like a shot of Eddie submitted by Lex, and I'm going to have a little bit of fun with this shot of Eddie. So let's bring Eddie into Photoshop Elements. Here we go. And what I've done is switch to guided edit mode. Guided edits are essentially built-in tutorials to help you get creative with your photos, even though you may not have all the skills of an expert. So in guided edit mode, over here on the right is a list of all the different guided edits that are at your disposal. I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom into the photo play category and pick out of bounds. Because this shot of Eddie, I want to put an out of bounds effect on. So the out of bounds effect is this up here in the top corner. We can take a shot and we can give it that 3D look, make it feel like the subject of our photo is actually sticking out of a print of the photo. And it's really easy in this guided edit. We will literally take you step by step through how to do it, all the instructions and all the tools you need right at the right time. So step one, as you can see here in the text, is to simply add a frame. And I do that by just clicking on this add a frame button. Now you can see over here on top of Eddie, a frame has been added. We have some handles around the outside, and kind of the trick here is to drag these handles around and position that frame exactly as you want it. And you know, it's sort of up to your artistic desires, but I like to have part of my subject inside the frame and part of my subject sticking out of the frame. So in this case, Eddie's ear is sticking out and Eddie's paw is sticking out. Once I have that set, I can skew the frame a little bit by holding down the Shift, Command, and Option keys as described here in the text, and just pull in one side to give it that kind of 3D look. So you can see this side is tall, this side is a little bit shorter. It gives it that skewed effect that's going to simulate some 3D for us. When I'm done with that, I just click this little green check mark right here to submit those changes. And Photoshop Elements will go ahead and crop the image down to the frame that I had just added, put a border around it. You can see there's a little bit of space between the edge of where the image was cropped and these marching ants. If I like the thickness of that border, I can just click the green check mark, but maybe I want it a little bit bigger. I can just drag these corners, and I've made it just a touch bigger on that side, and drag this corner, make it just a touch bigger there, and maybe just a touch bigger on the left. When I have the thickness of the frame as I want it, again, I just click the green check mark. And Photoshop Elements will automatically go create that picture for me. So I've now got my snapshot, I've got a border around it, I'm starting to feel that picture-in-picture effect, if you will, already. So let's scroll down to the next section. Section 2 is to use the selection tool to select the part of the image that I want to extend out of my frame. So that's really easy as well. I just click on the selection tool, and then I come over here, and the trick here is to start on the inside of my frame and drag to the outside. And you can see the selection tool is automatically finding the edges of Eddie's paw and making that selection for me. And if it gets a little overzealous, like right here it over selected, I just hold my Option key down and I drag over the part that I don't want selected, and it will deselect that image. So with a couple little drags, I can get my selection to be right around Eddie's paw here. And I actually want to select Eddie's ear as well. So I'm going to hold my Space key down, which gives me my hand tool. I could click the hand tool over here as well, but it's easier just to hold my Space key down. Pan my image down a little bit so I can see Eddie's ear, and do the exact same thing. Start in the inside of my frame. In this case, drag up across Eddie's ear, and the quick selection tool will help me select the edges of Eddie's ear. Once I've got my subject selected, the part that's inside, that's extending out of my frame, all I need to do is come down to step 3, click this out of bounds effect button, and Photoshop Elements will automatically create that out of bounds effect for me. Now there's a little rough spots you can see. I missed a little selection here, a little here, around his paw's a little rough. Don't worry about that. I'm going to show you how to fine tune that stuff at the end. So we can move on to step 4. So scroll down to Add Background Gradient. I just click Add Background Gradient. New layer dialog box comes up. I can give it a different name if I want, but I can leave it Gradient Fill 1 and just click OK. And then all I have to do is select what kind of gradient. We default to a nice white to gray gradient, but I want to add a little color to Eddie's out of bounds shot here. So I click that pull down. There are a bunch of choices. I can make rainbows, I can make strange targets, I can make green and red, but I actually like this color combination here, the violet to orange gradient, and then just click up here to dismiss it. And instead of a radial gradient like we have here for this shot, I actually am going to prefer a linear gradient. So again, just click on the pull down, pick which kind of gradient you want and change it. And then what I also want to do is change the angle. So I just click around and you can see the angle changes as I click on this little round dial. And I can set it any way I want. I actually want the orange down in the bottom right corner. Something like that. And then finally the scale. If I want a very smooth gradient, I can leave it alone. Or if I want to tighten it up a little bit, I can change the scale. And you can see if I go all the way down to 10, it's a very steep transition between orange and violet. As I crank it up, it gets a little smoother. So I want it smooth, maybe something like that. And then I can just hit OK. And then the final step is to add a shadow. Just pick small, medium, or large and decide which shadow looks best for your image. I actually like the small shadow on this shot of Eddie. And click Done. And as simple as that, I've used the out of bounds guided edit to step me through the editing tasks necessary to create this out of bounds effect. Now earlier I mentioned we didn't need to worry about some of these rough spots, the roughness around Eddie's paw, some of the stuff that we missed when we were using our selection tool, because if we switch over to expert mode, we can see over here on the right, this is our layers panel. So this is all the work that guided edit did for us under the covers, if you will. But I can come back and continue to fine-tune and edit my image. So the thing that I really want to focus on is this layer right here that's a picture of Eddie with a mask. Now what a mask, these are actually called layer masks, what a layer mask does is if I paint with white on the layer mask, I see that layer. If I paint with black, I hide that layer. So I'm going to temporarily turn off this very top layer, which is the inside part of my photo. And I hide that by clicking the eyeball. And you can see what's going on. This layer here, wherever there's white in the mask, this big blob of white here, that's Eddie's paw. This little blob of white here, that's Eddie's ear. All I need to do is select my layer mask by clicking on it. You can see I've got that blue triangle around the outside of it to tell me it's selected. Come over here to the left, pick a paintbrush tool, and change my foreground color to black. And then as I come over here with my brush, when I paint on the mask, it'll paint black onto the mask, and anything that's there will get hidden. So if I can just paint over these spots here, I hide that little place that I missed during the selection process, and that gradient shows through. If I want to soften up the edge of Eddie's paw, I just kind of come around here real lightly and paint on the edge, and it'll smooth things up just a little bit. So as easy as that, I can make it a little smoother. If I want to smooth up his ear a little bit, I can do that too, although his ear is not really all that bad to start with. So then I turn back on this topmost layer by clicking on the little eyeball. That inside part of my picture comes back, and I've now got this really cool out of bounds effect with Eddie kind of reaching out of the photo for me, which I could then print or put in a greeting card or do anything that I might be interested in doing with it. So there you go. That's your Fur-tography video tutorial on Photoshop Elements for the day. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care.